Okay, so in this one, we're going to go ahead and add some detail to one of these basic shapes. So I'm going to hide this one, and we're going to actually start detailing on this. But the trick here is when I made it, what happened was when you do an extrusion, sometimes it goes along the normals like it should, and I accidentally skewed it up in this direction. So let me show you a quick fix for this. If you hold Alt and Shift and select all these edge loops like so, what you can do is you can do Machine Tools, Alt A, and align bottom. And it flattens it like this. So instead of leaving it like that, we're going to change this option where it says each to true. And now you'll see that they're all straight up and down, all right, which is great. Except we don't have the top done yet. So we just have to do this one real quick. We'll select all the way through. And now we can align bottom like so. Works just fine. We got to do it to the other side as well. And there we go. Align bottom. There we go. It's now perfect, ready to go, and we can duplicate it and hide one of them so we have a copy, all right? So in case we need to go back and start over, we have it. Now here's the trick. What we're going to do is even out the topology here. So we're going to turn off optimal display. And in edit mode or in object mode, we're going to turn on wire display. Okay, so we need to be able to see everything going on here. And we want to try to make all of these as perfect little squares as possible. It may not always be possible, but it's good to try to get them there. Okay, so we're just going to press Control R, add a bunch of loop cuts, mouse wheel up, until we get some basic squares going. Okay, we can always go back and try to fix this or correct it if we need to. So these are going to be rectangles. I probably need to do more subdivision in here than, all right, manual subdivision. A lot of fun. All right, so that's a little too much. That seems to be a little bit better. Those aren't too bad. I think I can work with those. Let's add a couple loop cuts through here. That's too rectangular. So maybe like that for now. You also want to match the density. So if something looks too dense in one area, not dense enough in the other, that could be a problem. In this case, these are too rectangular for me, so I want to bump it up a little bit. These are also extremely too rectangular. All right. Not enough here, in my opinion. Don't get rid of any edge loops you might want to hold an edge, for example. And this is going to be probably the most janky part of the model in the back here. Normally, I try to push all of my geometry so that maybe only one corner or one side of a model doesn't have really great topology, but the rest will be pretty good usually. So you can keep that in mind when you're creating things, that you might want to do that. Okay. And so this iterative process is pretty simple. You know, after doing all that, it'd probably be worth making a copy of this as well, so you don't have to do it again if you mess up. And then just hide it, so press H. And what we're going to do is apply a subdivision. Even though we just kind of went through and evened it all out, when we subdivide it, now we'll have a much denser mesh like so. And you can take it up as high as you need it to be, but I don't recommend going too high. If you were to go to like this level right away, that's a little too much and it's going to be hard to work with. So just use something like level 1. Press Control A and apply it. Now we can come in here and start modeling on this and continue what we were doing. Fortunately, this is mostly all flat faces, so they're planar faces. And that's not going to be a big problem, because if we were to say, let's add in a section here. Let's do an inset. Let's press E, extrude, E, extrude, E, extrude, right? And we can subdivide this. Turn it off in edit mode though. And so what we end up with is this number. All right, maybe these edges are too soft here, these corners. So we need to add a loop cut for it. And we can do that easily on a planar or flat face model. If we start doing this on cylinders, it becomes more problematic and it can actually be pretty challenging. Now I'll show you how to mitigate that a little bit on a cylinder in this video, but I just wanted to point that out to you because it can be quite troublesome, right? If you're working on different types of shapes. Nonetheless, a lot of this is really simple and a lot of fun to play with. So I might do something like, let's say right here. No, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. I'm going to try to remember to do it though. Let's say right here, all the way across. We want to work this area. There's a problem here. This topology flows back into this direction, and this isn't a straight shot through here. So that's a little bit of an issue, but it's not something you can't mitigate. You can always grab something like this and then align it right or left, and then maybe just start a little bit more in this direction, or you can push it back. You can shift your topology around quite a bit, but it's not going to give you a perfect grid anymore, so just keep that in mind. And also, you might not have things meet up where you want them to meet up, so in this situation, I really wanted these two to meet up, so I'm going to shift it all left. I'm going to add a loop cut here and then work in this area. So I'm not right on that pole. I don't want to adjust that pole or touch it or anything. So I want to kind of stay separate from it. And so now I can do this all the way through. So you're making your own box modeling grid, basically, is what's going on here. So you do something like that very easily. Only Control and Shift, making selections. And I could do an inset. While insetting, I could press Control, and it does basically a extrude along normals. Then I could do another inset one more time. Just a regular one, though. We get this kind of result. Okay. Perfect. Not yet. But we can tighten up the corners if needed just by shifting one of these edges around. Not a big deal. Okay. So this is the kind of result we're getting here right now. Maybe it's not deep enough or something. You can always go back and adjust it. But the trick is maybe you want like a panel in the middle or something. You're going to have to think about what you're doing a lot of times and how many polygons and stuff you might need to make that happen. You're not necessarily done modeling at this point. Like you could technically dissolve stuff still and just kind of rework areas. So I know I want an even kind of created object here in this center section. So I could do a loop cut and a bevel and do this number. Then I could try to fill it all back in if I wanted. And grab those little sections like so. Okay, so that looks pretty even to me now. You could do an inset, hold shift, inset but extrude, so hold Control. I use inset to extrude a lot now, so that's kind of the way I like to work. So something like this now in the middle, not a big deal. Then once again, you could tighten up the corners by shifting or creating new loop cuts. And that's the money right there, because this allows you to work iteratively very fast. And you know, your topology maybe having a lot of rectangles in it now, but it's not that bad of a deal because you can always just subdivide it and not really care about it or add loop cuts. And yeah, so we can go around the whole model doing this. There's also something else I want to mention, which is occasionally you might want to float some geometry. You don't always have to have this geometry attached. So you could say duplicate this, press P, separate the selection, and then grab this object, go into edit mode. I'm going to do an inset and hold Control. And what this actually does is it allows you to extrude, but it doesn't create the back face on it. So if I was to forward slash, I can isolate real quick, but you'll see it's hollow under here. If I was to just press E and extrude, it creates all the faces underneath it. So it's kind of good to know if you want to do that. Just inset, hold Control. All right, extremely useful for a lot of different things. But you can see I can float this now, no big deal. And I could tighten up corners or do whatever I want to this mesh. And this may or may not be something you want to do. If it's like a little hatch or a door or panel that's popping off of another object, just keep in mind the way things are made in real life, it's probably how you should make them in 3D as well. So you wouldn't want to try to model everything onto this basic shape perhaps. All right. Something you may want to do though is create little like screw holes. So this can be a little bit problematic. So I'm going to do an inset, use loop tools, and do circle. Most people are aware of this, except a lot of times it kind of positions it a little bit crazy like. It doesn't quite line up. So just what I like to do is maybe do the circle and then kind of get it aligned up a little bit better. Can't always get it perfect though, so just keep that in mind. Might have to skew things a little bit. And this middle section, you can actually just Control V and do a smooth vertices here. Kind of bump that into the middle a little bit. You could do it that way, or you could just get rid of everything and then do like a grid fill and then change the offset. That works as well. So this shape here, I want it to repeat in all the corners. So I'm going to have to duplicate the geometry and work with it. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create a loop cut here. And all of this one, I'm just going to delete it for now just to demonstrate kind of what's going on, all right? So this is going to be kind of like a separate object we're placing all over the place. And now this one, we can inset it, maybe bring it down a little bit. Something like this. I'm going to grab this as a, well, let's create a inset here. And we'll do a loop cut on the bottom one. This top one we can grab, hit Control-Shift-R, press E. We can do this number. Okay. So now we have that going on. But we want it in every corner, so we're going to delete the equal amount of faces here. And not all of these might line up. So it's going to be a little challenging, but not too bad. So I can just duplicate it, bring it on over, and you want to try to line them up the best you can. Press L, select both of those, Shift-D, X. And we'll try to bring that as close as we can. And you can see right here, it's starting to fall apart in that area. That's not going to work out. Okay. Personally, what I would do is I would probably just delete or dissolve this whole edge loop all the way around if I can, and I can get away with it. So double check to make sure that's going to happen. Then just dissolve edge. Okay. Because we can easily take this one here all the way across and just slide it over a little bit like this. Now we can delete these faces. I could select them. It's a little hard to select them sometimes. All right. Very simple way to fill this in. There's two methods. You can select here, press Control E and bridge edge loops, or you can just use the F key. You can bridge these two, select both those edges, press F, and then grab that edge and press F and just run it around like that if you wanted. Depends on what you want to do. Control E, bridge edge loops works probably better. In this situation, sometimes you'll want to use the other method. So press Shift R. You don't have to hit bridge edge loops again. All right, cool, right? Now we have that panel going on, something like so. Let's go ahead and do a quick cut under here. I'm going to go ahead and inset it. We're going to make sure it's not clipping in the corners. It's not, so we can inset it again. Oh, you can see, look what's going on behind. It's like, oh, it's back there. All right, so let's deselect that. That'd be great. All right, cool. Let's not use that. That's how you easily mess up your models. Something like that happens. So we're going to do the inset. We're going to inset again. Okay. And this is where it becomes a little bit fun. One more inset. Okay. This section here, what I want to do with this is I'm going to, you know what? No, I don't want to inset that. We're not doing that like that. I'm going to press Shift H. I'm going to grab this center edge here. Okay. I'm hiding everything except for this section. I'm going to turn on proportional edit. Press G and X, move it on out, mouse wheel up to adjust the curvature. Push it in as far as you want until you get the shape you want. Press Alt H, and look at what we got going on. All right. If I select here to here, I can bring it back. Oop, turn proportional edit off. All right. Now you can add a loop cut, slam it all the way into that, and then just drag it back out a little bit on X. All right. Now this might not behave exactly how you want it because it doesn't have the 3 potential places to hold the edge there. You could do the inset right now, or you could have did it at the start perhaps, but it might just tighten it up a little bit in there. So now you have a slightly curved surface created like so. Just something I wanted to show you because I think it's pretty useful and it's not that hard to do. You don't want to do that and then come in here and start trying to add loop cuts, right? Because now what that's going to do is usually it's going to start making it faceted ever so slightly at first, but if you do bigger, more dramatic changes, like slamming one into the other, it's going to become really noticeable. Okay. That in mind, you want to pay particular attention on where you're placing this kind of surface and how it might behave with others. Oh, one thing I do want to also say though, is if let's say you had to, for whatever reason, add a bunch of loop cuts here and it became faceted looking. This is a little trick I like to do. I'm going to select that whole section again. And we're going to press Shift H. There's an add-on called Set Edge Flow, or Set Edges, or Set Flow, or Set Edge Flow. Sometimes it doesn't work in edit mode. You click Set Flow, it does nothing. You go into object mode, you'll notice your object's not selected for some reason. Click it, go into edit mode, set flow, boom. It actually tries to maintain the curvature. That's what it's trying to do, okay? And it does a really good job. So you can see that even though that was faceted, that's not a big problem right now, right? Compared to what it was. However, I'm going to go ahead and undo all that because I don't really want that there anyways. Just going to add a little bit of extra here, just real quick like. So maybe from here to here, down to here, we'll make one solid piece that goes inwards. I need to inset it first. Push it inwards. Push it inwards again. We'll make it go in a little bit further than normal. So there we go. Something like that perhaps, right? So you can add a lot of detail to something real quick. You can see where this is shaping up and what it's becoming. And then maybe you want like a, let's grab this section. I'm going to flatten it left. Turn that off from true. And add a loop cut here. Inset, hold control, push it in, right? Add a couple loop cuts, tighten up that corner if needed. And now you have this nice paneling going on. You can do that all over your model, right? So I'm not going to sit here and finish out doing all of that, but you continue working with this until you're happy with it. And you can even take it a step further. You can say duplicate it again, apply one subdivision to it, and then apply it. And just keep going, right? But the fun really begins with this simple step here. So I am going to duplicate it and hide it, but instead of using a subdivision surface modifier, you can use a multi-resolution modifier, okay? And this is extremely useful if you modeled it correctly, because what's going to happen here is in edit mode, we can see this is our mesh, right? But we want it to be as squared up and quad as possible, not too big of a run of a rectangle or something, right? Because we can go over to Sculpt Mode now. Just hit tabs, go to Sculpt Mode. And with a multi-res, you can start sculpting on this. You can use the scraper, for example. And, let's say this was some kind of metal. Metal still gets ding, dents, and scrapes and stuff on it. So you can use the scraper tool and kind of knock in some little distortions or something. And maybe go back over it with the crease tool and make it really small. You can start adding in some creases. And if you have a lot of really long run rectangles, this isn't going to work that well. So you just got to keep that in mind. But you can add an immense amount of detail with sculpting alone all over your mesh or your model. And you can see here that this just isn't detailed enough right now to hold the kind of level of detail I want. But from this far away, it might look okay. So it depends on what you're creating and how detailed you need it. So around 500,000 faces for this shape isn't too bad. It's going to start to behave a little bit more predictably, perhaps. You can go back through with the scrape tool, kind of scrape some things out, add little dings, dents, and all this other stuff. So basically what we've done is we've created something of a mid poly and we're taking it high poly. Okay. And this is just an extremely efficient workflow once you get the hang of it, because you're not doing a whole lot of labor here, to be honest. It does take a little while to work out these shapes, but look at what we can do now, right? We can just create ridiculous amount of detail on this if we wanted to. And we can also add even tinier, small little screw holes and all kinds of other fun stuff. But here's where it really takes off, and that is create a kit for yourself, okay? So in my asset browser, you can see I've been working on my own little stuff here. So I got some nuts and bolts and other buttons and whatnot. So in this example, let's just put like a flange bolt right here, and I can scale it down. So now this is where the fun begins, because I've already spent the time modeling all these little components, but I can just go ahead and slam them in here. If I hold shift and forward button on my mouse, you'll see that we have surface snap for machine tools. This is going to be face, median, align rotation to target, move, and all that fun stuff, global, and I think this is individual. Which one is this? No, it's just medium point. All right, cool. So we can press G, hold control, and snap things into place. So we can just duplicate stuff out now. Take time to set up your asset browser, and it's going to pay off for you. It really does help you along the way. Okay. So something like that, real simple. Maybe we want some kind of screen over this or something. I've already created a couple different types of weave here. Let's do weave loose. And you see it came in at a 90-degree angle. I don't really want that, so let's see if I can, or not a 90 degree, it was like a weird angle there, but I want to place it something like this, and then I can just adjust the size of it, like how tight do I want it to be. Oh, where's it at? It's way out here. Let's go ahead and push it all the way up here. It's not disappearing yet, so somewhere around here. Oh, I guess it did. It's not going to disappear. Okay. So something right here. Let's see if we can't pull it about where I want it. Pull it to a corner. And set the scale or the size of this. This is going to eat up a lot of polygons, by the way, so just keep that in mind. I'm not going to solidify it. I'm just going to leave it as is. And we're going to do an array. We're going to click merge, and we're just going to array it all the way down. It might intersect with the model, but it'll be all right. And then we're going to do another array. Make sure it's on merge. And we're going to do, instead of this axis, we'll do this one. Go ahead and bring it all the way over. Okay. So making little patterns like this can be extremely useful as well. That might be a little bit too thin though, because I can't see nothing inside. There's no point in having that curvature there if you can't see it. So I might make it a little bit bigger and just drag it out a little bit. And now I could just bump these numbers around however I see fit. Make it even smaller. So maybe it's like a wire mesh would be a little bit bigger. Something like that anyways. Shade it smooth. I don't think it's shaded smooth. And I can subdivide it though. Tightens it up a little bit more. Okay, so it looks kind of like I'm going to solidify it. Usually I solidify it, so it gives it that nice detail like that. All right. It just eats up a lot of polygons usually. You can do this with other things, so like let's say these switches. I gotta snap them to the surface. I'm gonna rotate it. We're gonna do individual origin, and we're gonna do 90 degrees on Z. Scale it down, something like so. I can place it wherever I need it. Hit Shift D, Y, push it out like so. Now hit Shift R, Shift R, Shift R. And I can select these if I need to and bring them back. I want to rotate one of these 180 degrees so it's upside down. Something like that, right? I got some light switches and a joystick. The joystick took a little bit longer. So just keep in mind, these things can take a little bit of time, right? So I'll put a joystick here. And you might have to model each individual section or each individual piece or greeble Some people call them greebles. Might have to spend some time modeling each one of these. So in total, your project times gets kind of hard to track because once you build up this kit stuff, you kind of lose focus on how long it actually took you because this took time, right? These took time, and all this starts to take time. So got a speaker box or something. Let's do a big one here, like so. We'll bring it down. I feel like it's coming off the surface. It is. Okay. Let's try this. We'll go back to global real quick. Bring it down. Is that angled? Is that what's going on? No. Yeah, it was just something weird with the local individual thing. So bring it down. There we go. Cool. And maybe bring it down one more time. Something like this. All about right. Let's scale them in. I think it lifted it up, and it probably did. But it's because I have a group. No, it's all right. Cool. Not too bad. So I still got to make some other switches that I want. I haven't got a chance to do them yet, but yeah, you could do something like this and maybe do another 3 like that, or add in some of these lights here. And then do like a little section of them going down. Or something like that, right? This is actually a button. It's very similar to the light. Look at that. So we could do maybe a grid here of, so maybe not have that many lights, maybe only 2. Make it like a little keyboard or something, right? With the buttons. A bunch of little number pad stuff. Alrighty. Move that down. There we go. You can position this and configure it however you want. This kind of stuff. Yeah, it's interest. It's just real simple, quick, easy interest. You see, I'm got some pipes started. I haven't got them done though. Also, I have like bolts and threads and other stuff like that. But let's do some panhead screws and maybe say this corner here. Scale it in. Make it real small, whatever. There we go. You could do that for every panel if you wanted. Just kind of line them all up if you need to. You can use machine tools align to get them all precise on the same axis. So you can do these kind of things real quick, simple, easy, a lot of fun. And by the time you're all done with it, you got something that looks like it took you forever and a day to model, but in reality, it wasn't too bad, right? It's just something that takes a little bit of practice to get used to, and before you know it, you can make pretty much anything you want real quick like. And so let me go ahead and just load up my one project here. I want to just explain something. Same process, right? Start with the basic shape, work it out, add some cuts, some interest, do whatever you want. And then you can see the same little buttons and stuff here. The only difference is I made a stand for it, right? And it has the bolts and stuff in it. And then I made this thing, whatever this is, right? So you can intersect things together. It's not impossible to do that, but you need to be careful when doing it, right? Because this isn't technically correct, all right? You might want to cut an area out that this can come out of, but you don't really want to intersect them too much. But if you're doing quick, dirty models and that you're going to break this down to maybe like a low poly mesh that you're not too worried about how detailed it is because it's just like a little, just jumble a mess of different machines that's like 1 of 1,000 or something. Might be able to get away with something like that, but it depends on the quality level you want and what your needs are really. So with all that in mind, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will check you out in the next one. All right, so take care.